Happy MLK. Thank you so much for joining us. This is your virtual big brother, Ray Collazo, and you're listening to Ray's Talk Show. Ray's Talk Show assists super talented and service-oriented people find wealth in your voice. Thank you so much again for joining us. This is your virtual big brother, Ray Collazo. If you're looking for a community to help you through personal development, career growth, and online platform building, you've come to the right place. Thank you again so much for joining us. You can catch every episode of Ray's Talk Show live on Blab every Tuesday and Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, and possibly now on Fire Talk, firetalk.com. We're actually making our debut as we speak. We're simulcasting here on firetalk.com. This is really exciting. It's another exciting live streaming feature, and there's some interesting elements to it, which we'll get to later in this episode of Ray's Talk Show. And again, our homie Rush, thank you so much for bringing us into the Rays, welcoming us here to the Fire Talk community. Again, this is your virtual big brother, Ray Collazo. And on this very special edition is actually going to be the 200th edition of Ray's Podcast, the podcast version of the show, which you can always check out by not only going to bigbrotherray.com, but also subscribing to Ray's Podcast on iTunes or anywhere you can subscribe or download a podcast, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, anywhere in the podcatching world. On this very special 200th episode, we're actually recording it the day after Martin Luther King Day. Hopefully you had the opportunity to celebrate in some way, whether it's spending time with family, community service, and just reflecting on the legacy of this incredible man. And so I wanted to very briefly touch on what MLK meant to my life, literally, and then really get into a discussion about what it means for what I believe the legacy of Martin Luther King means for me moving forward, and particularly about dreaming. And I want to just connect with some reflections about it, and hopefully it'll connect with you and be of help to you as you're thinking about your dreams and how you're building your career, your personal life, and really being yourself 100% every moment of your life. That is the greatest blessing you give not only to us, but to yourself. So thank you again for being a part of this journey with me. And so I have a larger explanation, which gets into my family's personal history, which you can check on a scope I did today. And if you go to bigbrotherray.com, there'll be a link to this show, as long as with that video that gets into more detail about my family's personal life. But what I wanted to share on this particular part of the episode on this episode in particular, is that whether it's directly or indirectly, the impact of Martin Luther King and really the larger civil rights movement goes well beyond the 60s and well beyond the African American community. And so without not only the civil rights gains, the literal policy gains, the Voting Rights Act, the Civil Rights Act, things like the Kerner Report and other sort of policy gains that were made, beginning from the civil rights policy changes of the mid 60s. Those not only policy changes, but also that sea shift in our world, and how not only non-whites were perceived in this country, and the beginning of this change, moving closer towards equality for all in this country. That's been a huge impact on my whole life. And again, there's a larger explanation on Periscope. But if it wasn't for the civil rights movement happening essentially a decade or so before I was born in the mid 70s, I doubt that it would have been a much, much harder road for me in my education, achieving access to a quality education, achieving just certain day-to-day civil rights that many of us take for granted. Many of us, unfortunately, are still fighting for as it relates to just a basic quality of life. Certainly wouldn't have probably lived in the house I'm living in now, would have probably been redlined through loans, through the mortgage discriminatory process, and would not have had the career, most likely, or had access to the career that I currently have. And so I want to thank not only Martin Luther King, but the literally millions of people that have been part of the civil rights struggle for generations in this country. And we all need to take a step back, even if you're not African American, if you don't directly connect with that movement, really think about and understand the history that impacted all of us in a way that paved the road for all of us in some way to be free, whether it was, the women's movement, LGBT rights, of course, other minority groups, Latinos, Asian Americans, Native Americans, and others. It's interesting because my 6-year-old, I was asking him about what he felt about Martin Luther King and his legacy, and he shared with me something really interesting. He said, if his whole background, the thing that impressed me the most is how he helped trash collectors, and so to him it was sort of obvious that you would want to help people that were discriminated against just because of the color of their skin, but the fact that he reached out to workers who pick up trash to be a voice for them, he thought was really cool and particularly special about his background. So, it's just an incredible legacy. And, whether it's President Obama, the current political conversation happening in his country with, again, this ongoing tension between you want to call it class warfare, the 99%, the Walmart effect, as many of us call it. We just continually have these struggles that, thank goodness, Martin Luther King stood up for and was part of a movement 50 years ago that moved the ball, moved us towards that, moved us further along in this discussion. So thanks again for Martin Luther King. Thanks again for the many. The Ella Bakers, the numerous, too many people to name, but particularly the women of the civil rights movement that often don't get discussed enough. And my son, my associate producer, Maxwell. Hey, Max, say hi.
Hi.
Hi, Puppy. Here you go. Here's your water.
Who are you talking to?
I'm talking to the people on TV. So thank you so much for joining us. Oh, we have someone here on Blab. Thanks again. Marisol, how are you? Feel free to jump in, Marisol, talking about having my dream and trying to help others achieve their dream. So feel free to join in. Puppy, I need you to go back to bed, okay? And Marisol jumps away. Hopefully she'll be back. So hope all is good. But again, thank you again for joining. This is your virtual big brother, Ray Collazo, making his Fire Talk debut. Thank you, Fire Talk audience, for checking us out here. Again, through personal development, we help super talented and service-oriented people find wealth in their voice through helping them with our great guests and feedback and thought leaders around the issues around career growth, personal development, and online platform building. Thank you again for joining us. You can check out the live show every Tuesday and Thursday night on Blab and possibly on Fire Talk. Looks like we can probably simulcast this relatively easily. And again, you can check us out. You can check out all of our content, particularly our video and podcast content, at BigBrotherRay.com. And I'm talking today about the legacy of MLK, having a dream, and how we can turn that dream into reality and move forward with our own dreams, and particularly with the road that MLK, Martin Luther King, and the civil rights era and the generations before paved for us. And so as we move forward in 2016, again, you hear a larger description of what MLK meant to me in a Periscope I did earlier today, which you can check out the video of at BigBrotherRay.com. I wanted to discuss a little bit today about my dream, and hopefully this resonates with how you're feeling and how we can potentially help each other in this journey. And so the biggest takeaway I get from the legacy of Martin Luther King on a personal level, besides the incredible amount of gratitude I have and the commitment I have in my life for social justice. Growing up in North Philly, spending time in North Philly, literally going to work out in North Philly every day. And, I see, and I'm fortunate enough to have been blessed enough to be able to kind of go back and forth and live many lives, essentially, in very different, how would you say, strata of society. And so there's a lot of people that have been forgotten about. And, my dedication to making sure those people don't get forgotten about is a big driving force in the platforms that I've built and in the business I'm building, so that we can have people from these communities, and really anyone that feels like a caged bird, to find their voice, to have a platform to share their voice, share their talent, share their gifts, and find wealth in their voice. I want people deserve to be compensated for equitable value. And that's a big driving force of the work that we do here in BigBrotherRay.com and Raise Media. And so the dream, as far as I see it, and the commitment we should have to continue the legacy of Martin Luther King is to have the audacious dream. The dream that is ridiculous, the dream that seems impossible, the dream that most people are not going to understand, the dream that makes you feel uncomfortable, the dream that makes you feel silly, the dream that makes you feel like a dreamer. And I didn't sleep. About 3 years ago, I went through a very difficult time because I didn't sleep very well, and I was agonizing what the next step of my life was going to be. And so I realized that it wasn't that I didn't know. It was that I wasn't doing anything about it. I think that was part of it. But the other part of it is that I wasn't listening to my dream. I was scared to accept my dream. And I still fight my dream off. I had, and I've shared it here several times here on the Blab version of Ray's Talk Show, is that I interviewed Peguín Chavarria, who's literally in the Motivational Speaker Hall of Fame. She's an incredible, she's in the National Motivational Speaker Hall of Fame. And she's just an incredible person. And she, before we started taping the show, she said, Rafael, Ray, what do you want this to be? And I said, well, I want this to be a $120 million business by the time I'm 45 years old. And so I really was kind of taken aback that I said that. And she said, well, that's what's in your heart. I didn't put that in your mouth. You said that. So now you have to work backwards from there. So in thinking about the struggle of just accepting and owning that dream every day, doubting it, wondering, at this stage in my life, I don't want to come off like a flaky dreamer. I want to be real. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do this. And but having the faith and saying, generations ago for Martin Luther King and people in the civil rights era to have this dream of racial equality, have this dream of a black president, have this dream of moving forward as a country with some semblance of desegregation and mixing together as one. I have a pretty crazy dream. You talk about Jim Crow, you're talking about slavery only being a few generations removed. You're talking about, pretty nasty stuff as it relates to, what this country looked like in the treatment of basically non-white people. And so for them to be able to dream that dream, it's incumbent on all of us to live our dream, whatever it is. It's going to be different for everybody. And so that's how I'm looking to honor MLK's legacy is don't give up on my dream. And, there's so many things I would say about it. And others that want to have this discussion on future episodes of Ray's Talk Show, which again, you can find on Blab every Tuesday and Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And I think I'm going to try doing this and maybe in even separate conversations. You'll be seeing me on regular here on Fire Talk. Thank you again, Rush, and others that have joined us here on Fire Talk as well. And so, when you're going for your dream, I would just say that, you really have to go over what that dream really is. A lot of us are sort of going for the C dream. And what happens is we achieve it because it was easier to get to. It really wasn't quite the dream. It was sort of what we thought could be the dream, the dream for the moment, or the dream that we could achieve and not feel like, without failing, so we wouldn't feel like a failure. But then when we achieve the dream that we sort of, the goal that we set, which was like 5 rungs lower than it should have been, then when we achieve it, then we feel underwhelmed and we feel disappointed and we feel unfulfilled because that wasn't really the dream. You were scared to climb Mount Everest, but that was your dream to do it. So you climb a little bunny slope or little hill. Then you turn around and you see Mount Everest way up there, but then you're sort of overwhelmed. Then you're upset that your dream seems very small now, when in fact that was the goal you went after because you were scared to go after your dream. So I would say, you really have to own the big dream. What is it? A HAG, audacious, hairy goal, whatever the acronym stands for. You've got to own it. You've got to own that dream. If I'm going to be the Puerto Rican dude Oprah and have a $120 million media company, then I've got to own that. And it's going to sound ridiculous to 90% of the people, maybe 97% of the people, but the 3% of the people that are feeling what you're talking about, and again, it's whatever your big hairy dream is, then you just have to own it and move forward and work backwards from there. And again, it's going to take time. One of the things I struggle with is that patience piece. Because of my family situation and my career situation, I'm basically doing this as a side hustle as I kind of work through my message and determine really kind of the business behind it. And I'm still getting there. It can be very frustrating when you feel like you don't have that piece all figured out and are not going after your dream every second of your life because you've got other responsibilities, particularly other career responsibilities. And that can be a very frustrating place. But you have to understand that it's not where you are, it's where you're going to be. So for example, if it takes me till I'm 41 now, if it takes me till I'm 45 to really get this rock and rolling, but if it's rock and rolling and I'm moving forward towards my dream, guess what? It was worth it to wait a few extra years. What did it hurt? What would be the alternative? It hit me a few years ago that I felt like I was already running out of time because you get to 40 or you're close to 40, most people around you think it's over. The dreaming of life is over. Not that life is over, but the dreaming, really being ultimately what you want to be and being, and having that kind of impact. And I still feel that sometimes where I feel like I'm running out of time. But I would say ultimately, it's never too late. And it's never too late as long as you're going for it, as long as you're moving towards it. Even if you take one small step, you work on it 20 minutes today because that's all the time you had. You read one chapter of a book. You made one extra contact. You made one pitch for business. You learned how to use Instagram. Whatever that you could do today, whatever time that you have today, use it and move forward and accomplish things and celebrate the journey, enjoy the journey. Let me just put here on. I'm just gonna leave that go. So own it, have patience, understand it's not going to be tomorrow. Enjoy the journey, move backwards toward that dream. So start from there. What ultimately is going to be your goal, that dream, and then start planning, working backwards from how you're going to get there. The other part of this that I wanted to talk about is, visualizing the dream, and again, owning it is very important. Throughout this conversation, throughout this journey of mine, I've visualized things that have taken place as it related to simple stuff like having like a real podcast on iTunes. Took me 30. Sure, Bobby, take it. It took me, my associate producer. It took me 32 episodes of doing my show to realize how to post it on iTunes. And so that was like a great dream of mine, to have my show on iTunes. And, being able to speak at a conference as an authority on podcasting, to be able to interview people like Rene de Calle 13. I mean, this is a man that's got 5 million Twitter followers. It's one of those favorite people in the Spanish-speaking world, if not, top 5 for sure. To be able to interview just amazing people to be able to get emails and tweets and Facebook messages and feedback from people to say on a recent blab, we've had a few women say, wow, this half hour did more for me than, anything I've done in months, and how it impacted their lives and how they loved the conversation and how they were inspired and how they learned something. And, it's really, the more I put myself out there, the more I realize why we need to do this, why we need to be the leaders in our dreams and visualize it. I always want to do this as a video show. The tech stuff, and it's like taping stuff on YouTube, and now the lighting, and I just kept pushing forward. And all of a sudden, I found Periscope, I found Blab, I found Fire Talk. All of a sudden, I got Ray's Talk Show. I've always wanted to have a talk show. So, and again, I visualized it. I visualized, and I still do visualize, interviewing celebrities, interviewing, the leaders of our world. And you know what? I also visualize people that I know now that are nobodies, but they're just incredibly talented, incredible, and have incredible messages. I visualize them being a part of this journey to have larger platforms so they can do their damn thing, man. So they can do their damn thing. I just want the whole squad to be able to do their fucking thing, bro. God. There's a lot of people, man, that deserve to do their thing. They really are. So that's what the Big Brother Ray's journey is about. Your virtual big brother here, trying to help you, whether it comes to career growth, personal development, brand building, online platform building. We're here for you all the way, no doubt about it. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Ray's Talk Show. A little unorthodox, the solo act. I think a day after MLK it was tough to book a guest, but I still wanted to have an opportunity to interact with people and make my Fire Talk debut. This was really cool. I like this Fire Talk thing. There's really something here. And again, appreciate Rush on Fire Talk, and always appreciate the people in the Blab community. You can check out every episode of Ray's Talk Show. First of all, you can check out Ray's Talk Show live every Tuesday and Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on blab.im/Ray's podcast. You can also check out our website for all of our YouTube videos, Periscopes, Meevies, all of our past live streaming content. You can check out at BigBrotherRay.com. That's BigBrotherRay.com. And again, for Ray's podcast, this is episode 200 of Ray's podcast. You can check out Ray's podcast. So at Ray'sPodcast.com, as well as just download and subscribe to Ray's podcast. Thank you again so much for checking out Ray's Talk Show on Fire Talk. The debut was a lot of fun, as well as on the Blab. Thank you again all so much. And again, if you have any questions for your virtual big brother Ray Collazo, you can always email me at podcastrays@gmail.com. That's podcastrays@gmail.com. Donna, I'm actually wrapping up the show. If you want to jump on, please do so. If not, I'm going to be wrapping this up. I've been solo here for about a half hour, so I was going to wrap this up. So if you have a minute, jump on. If not, I'm going to be singing Arrivederci. But talk today about my personal reflections on the legacy of Martin Luther King. Actually have Donna a Periscope that I'm going to be posting on BigBrotherRay.com tomorrow. That kind of gets more into depth about the personal impact, the literal personal impact of MLK in my life. But talked certainly a little bit about that, particularly from a Latino perspective. And then talked about how I'm living my dream and trying to continue and foster the legacy of Martin Luther King by not only going after the biggest damn dream I can dream, which is be the Puerto Rican Oprah dude, but that people like you, Donna, jump on this big train and let's rock and roll. Let's do our thing, serious stuff, and get paid to the value of your talent, skills, and the people that you impact. And Donna, you're always a part of that, and I want you to know that. And I know you like to be behind the scenes, but that's not going to be forever. But that's okay. It's good to start now. So again, thank you all again so much for joining us. Donna, I also got it on firetalk.com. Girl, I got to get you with this, because what's cool about Fire Talk is that I'm live on there simultaneous on my phone, right? So what's cool about Fire Talk is when we do the shows, whatever, I can put all the shows on a loop on a channel on Fire Talk. So we have like a 24/7 channel now which, so people want to check out Ray's talk show, they could just go to this link and they just see shows 24/7. So it sounds a bit egotistical, but my point is that if you can't check it out live, you could check it out 24/7 and it just loops. I'll definitely get to that link. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So not that I'm leaving Blab. Blab is number one because you get all that interaction, but you could have up to 2 people on screen on Fire Talk. But we'll talk about it. Thank our homies again for referring us here to Fire Talk as well. Thank you again. So Jonna, we'll be in touch tomorrow. I can use a guest for Thursday, producer. Hint, hint. But we'll talk about it, girl. Thank you all so much for joining us and have a wonderful day.